In today's podcast, Mariam B and I have talked about the power of conversation. Conversations are powerful. Conversations have changed the world. They have given the world a positive side and a negative side too. That you will see in the podcast. If you watch the video completely, you will see how a wrong conversation threw France into the rotting hells of civil war and how a meaningful conversation has changed lives of an individual. Stick to the podcast and watch it completely. Okay, Mariam Ben, I think, and you would also agree to this, that conversations are very, very powerful. I think this is something that we have seen in our lives. When we enter into an empty house, everything in the house is trying to make a conversation with us. But that being said, I think this is my perception. I can be wrong also. Ben, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think people talk more rather than having a conversation. And this is something that has created a big rift in relationships, in understanding people, in understanding oneself. But even how do you think we can, channelize this, or we can fill up this rift by convincing people to have a conversation, not just talk, but have a conversation? When will the world understand that the conversation is more significant rather than just talking?
I think, Zainab, I think since time immemorial, people have thrived on conversations. You will notice that all healing and mentoring professions have conversation at the heart of all of them. And these are the things that build relationships, mend relationships, or take relationships to another level. It may be that of parents with children, it may be peers, it may be friends, it may be relationships that go beyond that as well. But like you said very rightly, conversation is much more than talking. Conversation is like this intricate waltz. It's a dance, right? So you need to know when to step to the side. You need to know when not to step on somebody's toes. It's about listening to the other person and then replying naturally, reading into a person's body language, their facial expressions, their gestures. I think it's a beautiful thing. But in today's world, and especially for the younger lot, I think conversations have become very rare, and that too meaningful conversations.
Listening to you, Mariam Ben, I remember this very famous show, Coffee with Karan, and Deepika Padukone and Ranveer Singh, the power couple of Bollywood. They were there on the show, and I remember Deepika talking about how marriage is actually work, and you have to do a lot of work in order to make things work. And I think conversation, having a meaningful conversation with your maybe mother, with your child, with your friend, is also work. And today, people are not willing to work. So, I think that if the world thinks of a way by using which we can turn this work into pleasure, maybe then people will start thinking of having conversations rather than just talking. Like you said, that many healing, factors, they revolve around a conversation. The psychotherapists or psychiatrists or even counselors, they have a
coaches
conversation.
also, yes.
Agreed. And that is so important. Talking about all of this, Mariam, reminds me of a time when, I used to think that I had a lot of friends, but to be very honest, if I had to share something with them, I would think twice or thrice or maybe more than that, because I knew that the moment I'll say something, they're going to judge me, they're going to, cut me short and say things. So, do you think this hinders the conversation? Do you think people, they think of others as somebody else when they're trying to have a conversation? For example, if I've done something wrong, if I've committed a mistake, I would like to confide in someone. So I don't want the other person to tell me that I've done wrong, because I know that, right? You are supposed to listen to me and tell me how to solve this problem. So, Mariam Ben, do you think it's just the conversation? What percentage of roles do listening play in all of this, Ben?
I do want to say that conversations are very dangerous things also. In fact, one very famous writer called a conversation an adventure. So every conversation is like a peel that's taken off. You know, it's like an onion that's being peeled, and sometimes what is revealed is not something that you're expecting or something
True
that you like.
True that.
Right? So, yes, listening is very, very important, but knowing what to say and whom to say it to and how much to say is a very important part of meaningful conversation. You can't, and I keep saying this to a lot of my young students, you can't confide in everybody. You can't confide completely in everybody. You need to know who will be able to actually be there to support you or give you a solution, or who's just going to be there to judge you.
Agreed.
Right? And I think that's just a part of growing up. Another thing that comes to mind from what you said is, why are we paying people now to have meaningful conversations?
True
It's
that.
because we don't have time.
Exactly.
We're in this rat race, you and I and everybody else, where we don't want to actually or don't have the time to sit down and speak to somebody. We see this with our children, we see this with our students also. We are so rushed to meet lots of great agendas, of course, but in meeting those big goals, we forget the small pleasures. That's why it becomes work and not pleasure.
So true, and it's like a dawning now that I see Snapchat making this AI feature where you can actually talk to a robot. And why do so many people opt to talk to a robot? Because actually there is no one with whom they can talk. And I think if we talk it out, Mariam Bain, we will be able to solve so many of our problems, so many teeny tiny issues that are there. I keep it in my heart, thinking that this person might be thinking this about me. If I talk it out, we might clear the air and we can actually go on. I was talking to this person, Bain, and she's a great philanthropist. So she told me about this big research, how the brain processes a conversation. So she said that normally when a child comes to talk to you and the child starts talking, so they start telling that this happened at school, this is this, you actually jump in the middle of the conversation and you start judging the child, telling them that you like kind of hijack the conversation. You don't let the child finish. This is something that I do as well. Like as a mother, I want to respond immediately, but I'm not responding, I am reacting. So the lady told me that there's this little part in our brain, at the back of our brain, and it's still very intriguing that the scientists haven't discovered its full capability yet. So the part is known as amygdala. So this little part does what? For example, if I started talking to you, it will tell me to react immediately. React, give a reaction, give a reaction. And to shut off the amygdala, one has to pause for 4-5 seconds, process the information, and then give an answer. That would be a response. But so many of us are not able to converse because we don't respond and we don't know how to respond. The problem is not with the people, they're not bad. I'm not a bad mother, I'm not a bad person. I want to listen to my son, but the point is, I don't know how to listen. So when we talk about training in communication skills, when it comes to spoken, I think there is a big lapse when it comes to training in listening as well. Training your amygdala to calm down, not to react to what your amygdala tells you to do. Just process the situation and then speak up. Mariam, do you think if this theory is told to many parents and if they start practicing it, will they be able to listen to the children fully? And how impactful will it be for the children, Ben?
Oh, it will be life changing. I remember when we were growing up and there was no social media, limited television, time. We actually did end up spending a lot of time conversing with our parents or listening to the conversation that our parents were having.
True.
And that's where we learned conversation in our homes.
Agreed.
And that's how we've become conversationalists, right? Remember, our children are watching us as well. So when they're watching us on our phones, having conversations on our phones, they are hearing that one-sided conversation. And we are limiting the conversations that we are having in person. Everything has become remote now. Meetings have become remote. Getting in touch with friends also, because we don't have time to meet them. So we make a quick call or send them a voice message. Having conversations they're the building blocks of life. And having those meaningful conversations doesn't mean having one conversation in a day. It's a continuation of all the conversations that you've had, right? So I feel it's a lost art now. and I say this to myself also, I remind myself of this. We need to take out the time to sit down and talk to each other. One of the main reasons I feel now, it dawns on me, like you use the expression, is why does Sayyidina Mufaddal Saifuddin talk about sitting in a thal and eating together with the family? You know, because that's the time when you get to talk to each other.
True that.
The younger ones get to listen to the older ones. The older ones get to hear about the younger ones' day. And that's why, you know, we've been told that talk about good things when you're sitting for a meal. That's how, you know, people anticipate dinners or lunches or Sunday breakfasts or brunches. So conversation, so it's not about the meal. It's about what is said
What is said.
over the thal or over the table. And that is so, so important.
What you said reminds me of two things, Mariam. Number one, I am 32, okay? But I love the fact that I live very close to my parents. So whenever I come from school, I have this habit of, you know, having my lunch with my parents. So I sit with them and I share each and everything with them, each and every minute detail of my day. And I actually, I am amazed at the way my parents listen to me patiently. The ones who know me, they know that I can talk for hours endlessly. So I tell them each and everything. I tell them about the lesson plan that did not went well, that did not go well. I tell them about a child, you know, not listening to me. Although some of the information they can't even register because our fields are entirely different. But they listen. They let me finish. They don't tell me that no, because your lesson plan, you know, you did not give it the time that it required, which is why it went haywire. So that allows me to learn so much. Also, number two, I also see it in the children that, you know, like you said, that the children watch us. They see how certain calls I pick up and how certain calls I ignore. So they see that okay, not every call is important. Although the other person who's calling might be, you know, in a need to talk to me, or maybe there's something urgent waiting at the other end. But I don't pick up that call. So I am actually giving a message that it's okay, you can choose. Choose whom you would want to talk to. I'm not even teaching them the right thing, because you need to listen to at least everyone, because that is something that should be taught. Also, Mariam Bin, having said all of this, I think why I do this, because the society shapes our minds. You know, it tells us to segregate, it tells us to make a priority list, and it tells us to put the most important persons right at the beginning of your day or on the top of your list. Now, this somehow, you can disagree, or you can, you know, like enlighten me on this. This somehow gives a percentage of importance to each and every individual. Does it happen with conversations also, Mariam? Like, for example, if I have a favorite, okay, and I would listen to that person, I would talk to that person. But there might be some people for whom I am a favorite, but maybe I don't want to listen to those people, because I think that what they're saying is not adding to my day. You know, it's not adding productivity to my day. So what can we do to balance the act of not just taking in, but giving out as well, Ben?
That's a very, very interesting question, and I do feel that whoever you are having a conversation with, you must be present 100%. You know, whether you feel that you have something else to do, but that person taking up the time to reach out to you, for you may be something insignificant, but for the other person, they're, like you said, maybe they're just unloading, like you unloading to your parents, and they might feel better. And your reactions, because something as small as me looking away while you're talking is going to break that contact.
Oh,
You know, it's as that conversation dance is as sensitive as that. And I've noticed this when I'm talking to someone and they're looking at the watch, or they've glanced around to see, I know they're not interested anymore, or that the conversation's rambled, or that person has somewhere else to be. So you take the cue. You don't take it personally, but you take the cue, right? So remember, conversation is a two-way street. Okay, so one person cannot be having a conversation. Sometimes we feel that, oh wow, I had a great conversation with this person. In hindsight, you'll realize that you did 80% of the talking.
Yeah.
The other person just listened to you. It wasn't a great conversation for him.
agreed.
That's what both parties need to understand.
Which is why I think these days, when we talk about teaching, We talk about student-centered teaching. A class where students get a chance to speak up, because like you said, even a teaching lesson should be a conversation where a teacher and a student are conversing at the same time, so that they get an objective achieved by the end of the day. If all lessons are taught in that way, I think students will start enjoying the classroom lessons so much more. But I mean, one thing that that interests me a lot is that the children these days, they're like sponges. They will absorb anything that you teach them. But when it comes to very abstract things, such as the significance of a conversation, or such as the importance of having a relationship, it is very difficult to teach the kid about something which is not very materialistic, which they cannot see and touch, which they cannot hold in their own hands. How, as teachers, as parents, as role models, as people who are leading the way, or torch bearers in the case of our children, how can we make them at least realize the importance of a conversation? Some children, they don't have a habit of coming home and sharing. They won't do that, because there are reasons. The parent might interrupt the conversation, or the parent might not. But how to create that balance, how to tell a child that it is important for you to share. Because if many children, we see so many things happening in the world, if all of us are sharing with at least one person, all our concerns, all our worries, then many incidents can be prevented. How can we do that, Bain?
Here, I think it's very important for people to realize how important they are in the listening process. Again, going back to point number one, why don't children come and share with us? Because, like you said, they're afraid of being judged or being reprimanded or being given a solution, when they're actually not looking for a solution. They're just listening. They just need for you to listen to them, lend them a ear, and they need to perhaps vent, and the next day they're going to go back and fend for themselves. So you are discouraging people from talking to you by the way you react, like you said. So let's try to open our minds and our hearts to the fact that you need to be patient while listening to somebody's conversation, and also the element of respect is very important. When children come to you, you respect whatever they're bringing home. You respect whatever they did at school, perhaps. That's where judgment does not come in. And then, of course, because you're a parent, or because you're a caregiver or a teacher, then perhaps you could tell them that, next time maybe you could handle it this way. This is very, very important.
So true. Even a wrong, sentence, or something that is indifferent can turn tables. I remember somebody told me about the French Revolution and how it actually started. There was this queen, Marie Antoinette, and she went out into her balcony, and there were people standing. She thought maybe they're there to have a glance of the queen. So she waved and she came back. So the minister, who's standing with the queen, he said that, do you know why these people are here? So the queen said, yeah, they wanted to, have a look at the queen. He said, no, they are here because they don't have bread to eat. So the queen, because she never had a conversation with the people, she did not know what the people are going through. So she very indifferently said, so what? They can eat cake if they don't have bread. Because she didn't know what it means to not have something to eat. So the key person was the minister. He turned. And then when he turned, his rebellion actually caused the French Revolution.
That conversation sparked this entire...
And he came to know, like you said, that listening is so very important. He came to realize at that point that whatever we do, whatever we bring to her, she does not know. She cannot relate. She cannot be in my shoes. She cannot understand what I am going through. What are my troubles? Which is why, like you said, it's a two-way street. It was not there. The entire tables turned. The royal family was killed. The reason, not having the right conversation at the right time. Mariam B, having said all of this, we know the power of conversation. We've talked about it for years and years. I think the first philosopher who was born has talked about it, and today we are talking about it. Although We have invented so many gadgets who can talk, but still, as humans, we're not processing the importance of having a conversation. What is one message, Mariam B, that you would like to give to all the people who are yet to discover the power of a healing conversation?
One important thing that you need to do to start a conversation is, I know I'm going around in circles, but be willing to listen. Okay, people will want to talk to you, and then they'll give you a chance to talk as well. So today's generation, I feel, lacks that patience to listen to people. They're too prompt to respond also, and this is the advice I want to give, that I feel that we need to take up the time from our very heavy schedules to sit with the right people and have the right conversation.
That's so true, Bain. That's so true.
Finding the right person, could be a friend, it could be a partner, it could be a parent, that is key. Very, very important.
And learning how to be that right person for somebody else.
Even more important.
So very important.
Yes.
Thank you, Bain, for having this conversation. It is always enlightening to talk to you. And like I said, having a conversation and what it means to take out time from all that you have on your agenda, on your to-do list, and taking out 15 minutes to sit back and talk about something that actually matters to you. So this conversation, I think, will help everyone understand the power of a conversation.
I hope so.